Thank you. Councillor Berry.
Thank you very much. I won't be voting for this budget or for the amendment, but I do want to speak very briefly to say what I and the Greens think is needed. I criticise many of the choices that the Labour budget makes, but I'm glad to see they're proposing to increase council tax close to inflation, and that the reasons they give for doing that are the same as those we argued for a year ago when they froze council tax instead. But they have again refused to go further and asked the people of Camden if they would agree to a larger increase. Given that nearly two-thirds of people supported a 2% rise in the consultation exercise, I think a referendum to do a bit more to protect services might succeed and should have been tried. Even a small amount, an extra £1 a week from a Band D household, could have provided the living wage this year for staff in care homes, home care and school catering without cutting other budgets, and helped us stop charging additional legal costs to the people on benefits who are falling behind on the new requirement that they pay a proportion of council tax. When I asked about this last idea recently, it was rejected on the ground that the council's budget was so tight it couldn't afford to lose the revenue. But this is revenue from people who would pay if they could, but simply don't have the income. They are more than likely to be subject to benefit sanctions and the bedroom tax already, and if we can't afford not to drive our poorest people into impossible debts, then we do have a problem. In other areas of the budget, the Council is raising funds in ways that are not completely upsetting. I don't object, for example, to the project to increase advertising, though I have helped to insist on an ethical policy, and I'm happy to see this now includes banning the horrible predatory payday lenders from advertising with us. I also hope the next government will devolve more powers to local councils, including a supermarket levy to support local shops, the tourist tax that the council wants, letting us borrow more to build for the future, and a massive reform of property taxes to help with our housing crisis as well as our funding crisis. But whatever money we can raise ourselves, it will not come close to the gap caused by cuts to central government grants to councils. So this is where I think the real blame lies for a budget we're looking at today full of cuts to jobs and services. It lies with the misguided austerity programme of the Conservatives and Lib Dems in Westminster, a big chunk of which seems to have been deliberately targeted at councils, such that it's starting to feel like they want, in the end, to squeeze local government to death. The cuts in the three-year plan ahead now go beyond the world of efficiency savings, and I think the Labour councillors here would agree. We're squeezing our workforce and crossing the line into frontline service cuts, which will cause lasting damage to Camden as a whole. And when we can't even put a few shreds of humanity into policies that drive the poorest people into council tax debt, it's a real sign that we have to change. Local public services matter, and I hope that even though all but a few brave Labour MPs have voted to continue the coalition's austerity plans, something will change their minds soon, and I hope that something is having to work with anti-austerity parties like the Greens after May. If this happens, it gives me hope that this time next year, my party will be able to say something far more constructive and far less bleak about this council's next budget. Thank you very much.